Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and today it's a special day because I received a card that I bought at the Love of the Game auctions, and I was able to meet the owner of Love of the Game, Al Christofuli, over at the National. I talked to him a little while. Very nice guy. I bought some things in the past from him, and it's one of my go-to auctions usually. So what I want to show you today is a postcard that I bought. And you know what I love about this game is the history. I love the history of baseball, and I love when I have a historical piece that talks about the history of baseball. And that's what this postcard is. And one of the things I want you to remember, back in those days, in 1907, 1908, the only way to communicate with people was through letters and postcards. You know, there wasn't really phones and things like that, maybe telegrams, but that's about it. So most people really sent letters, sent postcards out. That's why you'll see a lot of postcards back in those days. But what I love about this particular postcard is the history that it shows. So first I want to show you a little bit of, give you a close-up of the postcard and just kind of show you where it came from. Detroit. And it went from Detroit, from Idleland to Clara Squires in New York. And this was sent from Detroit. You can see this is an H&M Taylor Detroit postcard. And it was sent in 1908 from Detroit, Michigan. There's the postmark, to New York to Clara. And here's the old stamp from the 1907, 08. I'm not a stamp person, but whoever knows can see that that's a super old stamp. But the key to this postcard to me is the history that it shows and the time back in those days. And I'm going to read to you what Idleland told Clara at that time. She said, "Read your letter on Tuesday a.m. Did Howard get back all right?" Now remember, back then, the only way they traveled was through train. So Howard apparently went from Detroit to New York, and Idleland is asking Clara if Howard made it back all right. It says, "Drop us a card and let us know." And that's how they communicated, dropping him a card. But the key to this postcard is this: Detroit is baseball mad. Idleland. Now, remember in the old days, baseball was spelled with two words, not one word. So she says Detroit is baseball mad. Now, it doesn't mean that they were mad. Mad meant in those days that they were crazy. They were crazy for baseball. That Detroit city was crazy for baseball. And why were they crazy back then? Because back in 1907 and 1908 and 1909, the Detroit Tigers were the American League champion 3 years in a row. In 1907, they had the best record in baseball and went on to the World Series. Unfortunately, they lost the 07 World Series. But again, they went back in 08 and 09, and they had the three best year probably that Detroit has ever had. And why was that? Well, mainly they were baseball mad because they had the best rookie at that time. In 1907, it was the rookie year of Ty Cobb. So I want you to hear Ty Cobb in his own words talking about the 1907 season and a little bit about what he says was his best year or his best game or his best recollection of memories at that time. So here is Ty Cobb in his own words. This is an interview by Leo Clotaire with Ty Cobb.
Mr. Cobb, over the period of years, what would you say is the most tremendous thrill you ever derived from the game? Of course, in 24 years, you're bound to have numerous.
Well, yes, naturally, the things that impress you are in your younger days. Later on, things may happen that might seem important or more important, possibly, that it doesn't make the impress as much as something that happened in your earlier days. And I've always said and thought that the 17-inning ball game in Philadelphia against the Athletics in 1907, close to the end of the season. While the game went to 17 innings in a tie, I think that that game cinched the pennant for us because we used up about 4 of their best pitchers, and we only had about 6 games to go, and we only used 1 man, and we went on to win the next 5 games, and Philadelphia lost 1 game to Cleveland, which was not a very good ball club at the time, and that put us ahead, and we cinched the pennant in St. Louis in the first game that we played there. Now, my part in that, I happened to hit a home run in the 9th inning when we were 2 runs behind with a man on base. And Waddell was pitching, and I don't know how I hit the ball. I just took a swipe at it. There was 2 strikes on me, and I happened to hit the ball right. It went over the fence. We tied them up, and then we battled out. Well, we scored a run in the 11th inning, but they tied us up in the 11th. We went to 17 innings, and then it was dark, and they had to call the game, and so the 17-inning game and what little part I had in it, and ending in a tie, strange to say, was the influencing factor in winning the pennant for us.
Is that so? Well, that certainly must have been quite a battle. Mr. Cobb, you started your career.
So there's Ty Cobb talking about that. Really what he remembers is his most important game, the 17-inning game back in 1907, and top pitchers back there. He hit a home run against Rube Waddell, and their pitcher pitched the entire game, 17 innings, which in those days, it was kind of common. So I wanted to show you the back of the card, and now I want to show you the front of the card. And the front of the card has the Detroit Tigers team, the entire team, with Ty Cobb. So you can see here, this is a 1907 H.M. Taylor Detroit Tigers team postcard with the rookie of Ty Cobb. And I'll remove this here and I'll show you. Give you a little better look at it. So here it is, and it's in a fair condition. Why? Because it's got the writing. But to me, the writing is the key. That has the history on it. Now this says these are printed from 1907 to 1909, but this is the 1907 version. Definitely not 1909, as you can see, because it was mailed in 1908. So here is the postcard that I got from the Love of the Game auction of the Detroit Tigers Club back in 1907, the champion of the American League. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you some of the players here. And there's all-star players in this, I mean Hall of Fame players that played for Detroit. So first of all, just to tell you who these people were. This is John Eubanks. This is Claude Rossman. And this is Sam Crawford. Sam Crawford, a big-time Hall of Famer. There's Sam Crawford right there. I'm going to kind of zoom in so you can show you the players a little bit better. That's Sam Crawford, which was one of the best players of all time. Actually ranked one of the top 10 outfielders. This one here is Bill Donovan. He was their best pitcher. They called him Wild Bill Donovan, but he was an incredible pitcher in those days. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about these guys as we go forward here. This was George Mullen. That's Ed Willett, Fred Payne, and Ed Killian. I might be blocking some of this. That's Ed Killian right here. So going down to the second row, the middle row, that's where Ty Cobb is. So the first one here is Davy Jones. That's Davy Jones. The next player is Red Downs. Red Downs. And there's Ty Cobb, the rookie Ty Cobb. That's his rookie year. And that's Ty Cobb right there. Next to Ty Cobb is another one of the great players, and that's Germany Schaefer. Germany Schaefer was another great player back in the day there. And then you have Oh no, I'm sorry. That's Bill Coughlin. Bill Coughlin, and that's Germany Schaefer. So that's Bill Coughlin, Ty Cobb, Bill Coughlin, Germany Schaefer, and next to Germany Schaefer is Elijah Jones. In the front row is Ed Seaver, Jimmy Archer, and that's the manager, Hughie Jennings, another Hall of Fame manager. He's probably one of the best managers in the history of baseball, Hughie Jennings. And Hughie Jennings is with the mascot, the dog that they had that was the mascot at that time. Next to Hughie Jennings is Boss Schmidt and Charlie O'Leary. All of these were really, really incredible players. And of course, that's the bat boy. And you can see the bats there with some of the gloves and things that they used back in those days. So this is the 1907 Detroit Tigers team with the Ty Cobb right there in the middle there. So to tell you a little bit more about that team is they won the American League pennant with a record of 92-58, even though they did lose to the Cubs in the 1907 World Series. And 1907 was the first year that the Tigers won the pennant. It was their first year that they won the pennant. They went on to win the pennant in 1908 and 1909. That's why Adeline in the back said that they were baseball mad, because they were an incredible team. And they were led by Ty Cobb, who was the American League batting champion. And it was Cobb's first batting crown. He batted .350 that year. It was his first batting crown. And then he also led in RBIs and slugging percentage. And next to him is Sam Crawford. And Sam Crawford, there's Sam Crawford there. Sam Crawford led the league in runs scored and extra base hits. The 1907 Tigers scored 89 more runs than any other team in the American League and outscored their opponents 694 to 532. They finished 1.5 games ahead of the A's. And the 1907 Tigers winning percentage ranks as it ranks as the 9th best in team history. So it was a 9th best team in Detroit Tigers history. The infield consisted of Rosman, Downs, O'Leary, Coughlin, and Germany Schaefer. And they were all great players. Germany Schaefer in that time was a backup, but he was famous because he was the pioneer of baseball clowning, and his vaudeville act with teammate Charlie O'Leary was inspired for the musical film Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which starred Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra. So Germany Schaefer and Charlie O'Leary, that are both in this picture. There's Germany Schaefer, and I think that was Charlie O'Leary. Yeah, and that's Charlie O'Leary. So these two guys had a vaudeville act. They were kind of like a comedy act, and they were the ones that created that show, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. So that's kind of a little interesting fact about those two guys there. A little bit more, the catchers were Boss Schmidt and Fred Payne. The infield again was Rosman, Downs, O'Leary, Coughlin, and Schaefer. And the third baseman, Bill Coughlin, he was known as Scranton Bill, and that's Bill Coughlin right next to Ty Cobb. He was known as Scranton Bill, and he was the team captain for 1907 and 1908. So Coughlin was the team captain. Again, there's Ty Cobb. He was a rookie, so that was his rookie year. So he was a rookie at that time. And the outfield. Oh, one more thing about Coughlin, because he was known. Coughlin was known as the first guy to really do the hidden ball trick, and he made it work. It says Coughlin reportedly pulled it off 7 times at 3 different positions, more than any other player in Major League history. And in the 1907 World Series, Coughlin caught Jimmy Stagel with a hidden ball trick, the only one ever in World Series history. So I just love all the history, and there's Coughlin there, that he was the trickster and the hidden ball trick. He created that, and he actually was the only one that's been done in the World Series. As far as the outfielders were Ty Cobb, Crawford, and Davy Jones, which was right over here. I think that was Davy Jones. Yeah, that was Davy Jones. So no, Davy Jones was here. That's Davy Jones. So Davy Jones, Sam Crawford, and here he goes. Davy Jones, Sam Crawford, and Ty Cobb were the outfielders for the team. And again, it was Ty Cobb's first season as an everyday starter. He won the first batting title with a .350 average. He led the American League with 119 RBIs, a slugging percentage of .468, and he had 212 hits, 283 total bases, 49 stolen bases, and runs created with 106. So he led the league in almost all the categories, except for Sam Crawford. Sam Crawford, who was known as Wahoo Sam, was one of the greatest sluggers of the dead ball era and still holds a major league record for triples in a career. So Sam Crawford owns the record for triples in a career and for inside the park home runs, where he had 12 inside the park home runs and a career with 51. He had 12 that season, 12 inside the park home runs, and he had 51 for his career. He finished his career, this is Wahoo Sam Crawford. He finished his career with 2,961 hits and a .309 batting average. Crawford was among the American League leaders in RBIs, extra base hits, slugging percentage, and total bases every year for 12 consecutive years, from 1905 to 1915. So we'll give you a good look at Sam Crawford right there. There he was, big time Hall of Fame player. And he was one of the best players at the time. Davy Jones also played from the Tigers from 1906 to 1912 with Cobb and with Crawford. And there's Davy Jones over here. That's Davy Jones. So those three outfielders, they dominated the American League, and they were some of the best players back in the day. He was a speedy leadoff hitter and a reliable run scorer, with Cobb and Crawford following him in the lineup. So you can imagine this guy, was a speedy guy. He was an outfielder with Cobb and with Crawford, and he batted after these two guys. So he was able to score a lot of runs, and that's one of the reasons why the Tigers team had such a good record back in 1907, 1908, and 1909. And the pitchers, they had an incredible group of pitchers, starting with Wild Bill Donovan. And Wild Bill, that's Wild Bill here. He looked like the biggest guy here. He looks pretty tall. I think he's probably the tallest guy on the team. Well, the other guys are sitting, but he looked pretty big. So Wild Bill Donovan was an incredible pitcher back in those days. And he was the Tigers ace in 1907. He had a 25-4 record. There he is right there. He had a 25-4 record and had the best winning percentage in Tigers team history. The other pitchers were Ed Killian, George Mullin, and Ed Seaver. And they were all incredible pitchers. Just to give you an idea on their pitching records, Wild Bill Donovan, his record was 25-4 with a 2.19 ERA. Ed Killian was 25-13 with a 1.78 ERA. Ed Seaver was 18-11 with a 2.16. And the workhorse there, the one that pitched the most, was George Mullin, and he only had a 20-20 record, but he had a 2.59 ERA, and he pitched the most innings for them. And even, believe it or not, even Hughie Jennings, Let me focus a little bit more on the card here. Even Hughie Jennings batted and played in one game, even as the manager. And he batted .250 for the season there. Some of the other players, Germany Schaefer, he ended up batting a .258 for the season. Matty McIntyre, .284. Of course, Ty Cobb, he had a .350 batting average that year. And Sam Crawford had a .323 batting average that year. Davy Jones had a .273. And a few of the guys had, pretty high average, close to 300. So I wanted to show you this card because I really, really love this card. When I saw it, it was something that, I had to go after. Any card that has Ty Cobb and his rookie picture in his rookie year. So it's a 1907 Ty Cobb in his rookie year. One of the best teams ever in Detroit Tigers history. The best record they had during that year. And what I love about this card, again, it's even though it's graded a 1.5, why? Because it's kind of beat up, but because it was mailed. I mean, this card was literally put in the mail. Now it has a little crack on the slab because it's an old slab. I may just send it to SGC and get it re-slabbed in a nicer slab. But remember, this thing was mailed. It was sent in the mail from Detroit all the way to New York. So it got kind of damaged. It was put in the post office, through the post office. But the key is the history on that. Just to hear from back then, from Ireland, to say that Detroit is baseball mad. I mean, that right there is history. And again, I'll show you the back of the postcard from 1908. There's the old stamp, the Ben Franklin stamp from back in those days. Again, the card is a little bit beat up, but it was mailed. And who knows how many people touched this card when it was put in the mail, in Detroit and so on. And, it had to be taken by train all the way to Buffalo, New York. And then Miss Clara Squires, I want to thank her for saving this card because obviously she received this card from Ireland, from Detroit. She held on to that card, to this postcard, until today. And today, I'm the proud owner of this card. And I'm extremely happy that I was able to pick up this card and the history of this card. And this is why I love collecting, because of the history, not just of the players, but the history of the memorabilia during those days. And when I saw this card, there was another one at auction that was graded a 4, similar to this one. It was different. It wasn't an H.M. Taylor, but it was a similar postcard. And that went for a lot more money. And I figured, you know what? I'm not interested in buying that card with a blank back, even though it's a better grade. I'll take the 1.5 fair with the history in the back that really talks about that era and that time. So I wanted to give you a quick video on this pickup that I did from the Love of the Game auction of the 1907 Detroit Tigers team with, of course, the Hall of Famers in there from Hughie Jennings, Sam Crawford, and the Ty Cobb rookie year Ty Cobb. So there's Ty Cobb right there in the middle from 1907, his first year in the league. And the rest of the Detroit Tigers team with Sam Crawford, Wild Bill Donovan, all of the other players, Germany Schaefer, there's O'Leary. They did that vaudeville skit, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. They were the first ones to actually do that. And there's Hughie Jennings holding the mascot, the dog. There's the Bat Boy. And there's their bats that they used. And their catcher's mitt and so on. Look at those spikes that they used to wear back in those days. Real spikes, not rubber spikes. So that is the 1907 postcard of the Detroit Tigers team when they had their best year, winning the American League pennant in 1907. And they went on to win the pennant in 1908 and 1909. Some of the best Tigers team in the history of Detroit. And so glad to have this card and to know that the people back then, back in 1907 and 1908, were real fans, and they were, like Idled said, they were baseball mad. I love that. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have an awesome day. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. I'll talk to you soon.